Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari. Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuni Tira Vanachari. Jamuni Tira Vanachari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari. Gopijana Balaba Girivanadari. Yasodanandana Braja Janaranjana. Jamuna Tira Vanachari. Tira Vanachari. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Boom! Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Boom! Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Boom! Krishna, Krishna, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Krishna, Hare Bol. Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari. Jai Om Vishnupad Paramahansa Priya Bhajikacharya Sita Shri Srimati Savangiri Sabai Charan Bhakti Vedanta Sai Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki. ISKCON, BBT founder Acharya Jagaguru Srila Prabhupada Ki. Ananda Kodavaisha Brinda Ki. Nam Charge Lahiradas Thakur Ki. Prem Shikaho Shukrishan Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shirveta Gadada Shiva Sadi Gaur Bhakta Brinda Ki. Sisi Radhakrishna Gopinath Shamakunda Radhakunda Girikavardhan Ki. Vrindavan Ki. Mathuradam Ki. Dwarkadam Ki. Navadidam Ki. Jagannapuridam Ki. Chamuna Ki, Ganga Ki, Tosi Maharani Ki, Bhakti Dev Ki, Sambhira Bhakti Vinda Ki, Srila Prabhupada Ki, Sisi Radha Giridhari Ki, Shri Krishna Sankirtana Jaga Ki, Gopremanandi, all glories to some of the devotees, all glories to some of the devotees, all glories to some of the devotees. All glories to divine lotus feet of Sri Guru and Gauranga. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. So because we have a lot of ground to cover, and because it's a special day, the appearance day of Srimati Rukmini Devi, we're going to dive right into it. But can I give you this? Can you do these simultaneously, or is that too much for you? Hand these over to Tapas Prabhu. So we are reading today with some commentary from the Srimad Bhagavatam, let's do this. This starts with chapter 52. So we're going to do the verses and then the purports and some commentary. Just as Krishna, does anyone know an example from Brahma Samhita? How Krishna expands into so many others is Purnam. One of the first things I heard Prabhupada say is spiritual mathematics. 1 minus 1 is 1. 1 plus 1 is 1. Krishna's Purnam. So does anyone know an example given in Brahma Samhita that makes this point that Krishna expands into so many other Krishnas, but each Krishna is of the same potency? Anyone know an example? And still there's an original, although there's expansions of the same power. No? Exactly. From one candle, there's an original candle, and you can light so many other candles, each of the same candle power. There's an original candle, but all the others are of the same candle power. So as a material thing can do that, Krishna can't expand. So as Krishna expands, Srimati Radharani also expands. She expands into the goddess of fortune. She expands into the queens of Dwarka. So Rukmini is an expansion of Srimati Radharani. It goes all the way down to Durga, the material name. Krishna expands, and Radharani expands. So that's a preface of who Rukmini Devi is. So this is the first, this starts verse 16. O hero amongst the Kurus, the Supreme Lord himself, Govinda, married Bhishmaka's daughter, Vidarbhi, who was a direct expansion, who was directly the goddess of fortune. The Lord did this by her desire, and in the process he beat down Solv and the other kings who took Shishupal's side. Indeed, as everyone watched, Sri Krishna took Rukmini just as Garuda boldly stole nectar from the demigods. And the purport. Srila Jiva Goswami gives the following profound comments on these two verses. The word Striyo Matram indicates that beautiful Rukmini is directly, because today is her appearance date, is a direct expansion of the eternal goddess of fortune. Therefore, she is worthy to be the bride of the personality of Godhead. As stated in the Brahma Samhita, so there it is. In the spiritual world, all the female lovers are goddesses of fortune, and the male lover is the supreme personality, end quote. Thus, Srila Jiva Goswami explains, Srimati Rukmini is a plenary portion of Srimati Radharani. The Kartika Mahatmya section of the Padma Purana states, those who were cowherd daughters in their adolescence became king's daughters in their young womanhood. Similarly, in the Skanda Purana, we find the statement, Rukmini in Dwarka is also Radha in the Vrindavan forest. The term Svayamvare here means by one's own choice. Although the word often refers to a formal Vedic ceremony in which an aristocratic girl may select her own husband, here it indicates that that informal and indeed unprecedented event surrounding Krishna's marriage to Rukmini. In fact, Sri Krishna and Srimati Rukmini chose each other because of their eternal transcendental love. Next verse. King Parikshit said, the Supreme Lord married Rukmini and the beautiful-faced daughter of Bhishmaka in the Rakshasa style, or so I've heard. What is that? Rakshasa style? What is that all about? Srila Sridhar Swami, here's the purport, Swami quotes the following Shmiti statement. A Rakshasa marriage takes place when the bride is stolen from one's rival suitors by force. He just swoops in and grabs the girl. That shows power and strength. It's quite dramatic. Similarly, Sukadev Goswami, they didn't find each other on Tinder, or what is it called? Is that what it's called? Some dating site. Where's the chivalry in that? Similarly, Sukadeva Goswami himself already said Krishna had beaten them down. Vyasadeva said, there was a king named Bhishmaka, the powerful ruler of Vidarbha. He had 5 sons and 1 daughter of lovely countenance. So back to the verses. Rukmini was the firstborn son, followed by Rukmarata, Rukmabahu, Rukmakesha, and Rukmamali. Their sister was the exalted Rukmini. Hearing the beauty, prowess, transcendental character, and opulence of Mukunda from visitors to the palace who sang his praises, Rukmini decided that he would be the perfect husband for her. Purport. The word Sadrisham indicates that Rukmini and Sri Krishna had similar qualities and thus were naturally attracted to each other. King Bhishmaka, that's the father of Rukmini, was a pious man, and therefore many saintly advanced persons must have visited his palace. These saintly persons undoubtedly preached openly about the glories of Krishna. Next verse. The Lord Krishna knew that Rukmini possessed intelligence, auspicious bodily markings, magnanimity, beauty, proper behavior, and all good qualities. Concluding that she would be an ideal wife for him, he made up his mind to marry her. Purport. Just as Lord Krishna is described as Sadrisham Patim, the ideal husband for Rukmini, being just like her, Rukmini is described as Sadrisham Bharyam, an ideal wife for Sri Krishna, being just like him. That is natural, since Srimati Rukmini is the Krishna's internal potency. What happens if you try to mix oil and water? Do they mix? What happens if you mix water and water? Jesus says, blessed be the pure of heart, for they shall see God. So if you're not pure of heart, what will happen? What's the converse of that equation? Back to Chris. If X is, what's the converse? X equals Z, and you would. So if you're pure of heart equals you'll see God. If you're not pure of heart, what happens to the equation? You won't see God. So here's, if you want to attract Krishna, you have to have the same qualities of Krishna. That doesn't mean you become Krishna. You become Krishna-like, free from the modes of material nature, free from lust, greed, anger, envy. Then you'll attract Krishna. It's not a cheap thing. Although Prabhupada, when they installed the deity in Paris, Radha and Krishna, who Prabhupada gave the name Paris Ishwara, Prabhupada looked at beautiful Radharani. Prabhupada said that all around the world, French women are famous for being beautiful. And Prabhupada said that Krishna has come to Paris just to get some French gopis. So, because Rukmini envied, because Rukmini, this is the brother, the older brother of Rukmini, because he envied Lord Krishna, he forbade his family members to give his sister to Krishna, although they wanted to. Instead, Rukmini decided to give Rukmini to Shishupal. So she was everyone, all the inhabitants of the capital, all the family members, the father, the mother. She was just perfect for Krishna. Everyone wanted that to happen. But Rukmini, because of his natural enmity, said, no, it's not going to happen. So, verse. Dark-eyed Vidarbhi was aware of his plan, and it deeply upset her. Analyzing the situation, she quickly sent forth a trustworthy Brahmana to Krishna. So seeing that, how the trap is closing, she made up her own plan. She sent a messenger, This is good because it's, anyway, we'll say that later on. Upon reaching Dwarka, the Brahmana was brought inside the gate by the gatekeepers and saw the primeval personality of Godhead sitting on a golden throne. Seeing the Brahmana, Sri Krishna, Lord of the Brahmins, came down from his throne and seated the Brahmana. Then the Lord worshipped him just as he himself is worshipped by the demigods. So just see Krishna's, this is one of the signs of renunciation. Although he's the cause of all causes, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, he gets down and worships the Brahman and offers all respect, setting an example, and being humility personified. After the Brahman had eaten and rested, Sri Krishna, the goal of saintly devotees, came forward, and while massaging the Brahman's feet with his own hands, he patiently questioned him as follows. O best of exalted Brahmins, are your religious practices sanctioned by senior authorities, proceeding without great difficulty? Is your mind always fully satisfied? This should be the characters and qualities of a bona fide Brahmin. We could say so much about these things, but I want to follow the storyline. Whence you have come, crossing an impassable sea, because Dwarka was an island. And for what purpose? Explain all that to us, if it is not a secret, and tell us what we may do for you. Although he's the all-knowing Supreme Personality of Godhead, he's setting up the situation. Thus questioned by the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who incarnates to perform his pastimes, the Brahman told him everything. Rukmini said in her letter, read by the Brahman, so she sent a letter, off like that. Those who say there were no letters and that this is Prabhupada's telling folklore, it's right here in the Bhagavatam. And the Goswamis described, anyway, I don't want to go off the field, but letters on palm leaves, letters on roses, letters, there's all different types, letters on cloth, all kinds of different letters sent in the Vedic tradition. So Sri Rukmini said in her letter, read by the Brahman, now here's Rukmini appealing to Krishna. O beauty of the worlds, having heard of your qualities, which enter the ears of those who hear and remove their bodily distresses, and having also heard of your beauty, which fulfills the visual desires of those who see, I have fixed my shameless mind upon you, O Krishna. Rukmini was a king's daughter, courageous and bold, and furthermore, she would rather die than lose Krishna. Considering all of this, she wrote a frank, explicit letter begging Krishna to come and take her away. So we can pray in the mood of Rukmini very directly, very openly, clearly to Krishna. And not, Om Jaya Jagadishwari, give me a car and a house by the sea. But how can I serve you? How can I become your eternal associate? That's the right prayer. O Mukunda, this is Rukmini speaking in her letter, you are equal only to yourself in lineage, character, beauty, knowledge, youthfulness, wealth, and influence. O lion among men, you delight the minds of all humankind. What aristocratic, sober-minded, and marriageable girl of good family would not choose you as her husband when the proper time has come? Anyone know the famous, later on, there's so many pastimes with Rukmini. How does she describe a material husband? And as we can see, a material wife. Yes, what is that? Blood, bone. She describes that a mundane husband, blood, stool, mucus, bones. And what does she say? What's the frosting on the cake? She says, decorated with a mustache. Oh, very, very handsome man. But what is it really? So here's Rukmini described that you give all your love. There was a country western song I remember. I was getting my tires changed, and the refrain was, looking for love in all the wrong places. I won't sing it for you, but I do remember the tune. So we're putting out the most valuable thing we have, our love, our attention, our dedication, our effort. Where? In a bag of, whatever it is, decorated with a mustache? And sometimes women have mustaches too, so it can work both ways. No, give it to Krishna. So that's what's being described here. In her bold way, be a princess's daughter. Therefore, my dear Lord, I have chosen you as my husband, and I surrender myself to you. Please come swiftly, O mighty one, and make me your wife. My dear lotus-eyed Lord, let Shishupal never touch the hero's portion like a jackal stealing property from the lion. You follow the analogy? It's really nice, Some jackal may come, like a crow comes and grabs something off your plate, No, it's meant for offering to Krishna. I say, I'm not meant for this, You take me. You're a lion amongst men. If I have sufficiently worshipped the Supreme Personality of Godhead by pious works, sacrifice, charity, rituals, and vows, and also by worshiping the demigods, Brahmins, gurus, then may Gadagraj, that's Krishna carrying a club, come and take my hand, and not Damagosh, not Damagosh's son or anyone else. Purport. The Acharyas comment as follows on this verse. Rukmini felt that no one can obtain Lord Krishna by simply by the efforts of a single lifetime. Therefore, she earnestly pointed out the pious activity she performed in that life and previous lives, hoping to convince Krishna to come. So she's making her case for why she's qualified. And we can see that, by the mercy of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, this one life, we just surrender to Krishna, follow the regulative principles, spread the Sankirtan movement. And Prabhupada, I personally heard him say it, you will go back to Godhead in this life, why not? So, but here's Rukmini making her case. O unconquerable one, tomorrow, what I love about this is she lays out a perfect plan. She's a prince. The princesses also understood royal intrigue and how to get things done, and expert managers. We were describing that. We were describing Sita. So here she tells Krishna, here's the plan, how to capture me. So she's laying out the details of that plan. O unconquerable one, tomorrow, when my marriage ceremony is about to begin, you should arrive unseen in Vidarbha and surround yourself with the leaders of your army. Then crush the forces of Chaita and Magendra and marry me in the Rakshasa style, winning me with your valor. Purport. As Srila Prabhupada points out in Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Rukmini, being born of royal blood, certainly had a brilliant grasp of political affairs. She advised Sri Krishna to enter the city alone and unnoticed, and then surround himself with his military commanders so he could do what was needed. Srila Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur compares the coming fight to the Lord's churning of the ocean to extract the goddess Lakshmi. Gorgeous Rukmini, the goddess of fortune, would be gained in the coming turbulence. Just like when you churn milk, you get butter. So out of the turbulence, something wonderful would come, Krishna getting Rukmini. Next verse. Since I was staying Since I will be staying in the inner chambers of the palace, you may wonder, how can I carry you away without killing some of your relatives? But I shall tell you a way. So this is her explaining, because if he just attacks the palace, it's going to be a fight. He may win, but so many people are going to be, how to do it, you know? On the day before, this is Rukmini explaining, on the day before the marriage, there is a grand procession to honor the royal family deity. And in that procession, the new bride goes outside the city to visit goddess Girija. This is Durga, the goddess of the Himalayas. Purport. Clever Rukmini anticipated a possible objection on the part of Sri Krishna. He certainly would not object to subduing rascals like Shishupal and Jarasandha. But he might be reluctant to injure or kill Rukmini's relatives, some of whom might block his way to the palace's inner sanctum, where the women were protected. The procession to or from the temple of Durga would provide the perfect opportunity for Krishna to kidnap Rukmini without harming her relatives. Back to the letter. O lotus-eyed one, great souls like Lord Shiva hanker to bathe in the dust of your lotus feet and thereby destroy their ignorance. If I cannot obtain your mercy, I shall simply give up my vital force, which will become weak from severe penance. Penances I will perform. Then, after hundreds of lifetimes of endeavor, I may obtain your mercy. Do you understand what she's saying? She's saying, if I can't get you, I'm going to give up my body. I'm going to die if I don't get you. We should have that much determination. At least, you know, oh, it's a little difficult. Oh, I can't get up in the morning. Or, you know, oh, I'm a little tempted by this or that. You know, where's the strength? Where's some valor? You know, we criticize woman. Of course, she's the goddess of fortune. But here's Rukmini with a backbone. If she can't get Krishna, she's given up her life. Not, well, the temple commander didn't praise me. The temple president gave me a hard time. I'm going home to my mother. I mean, what? You're not going to get Krishna. And she says, even I can't get you in this life. Just like Mukunda Dutt. You know, oh, he'll see me. Maybe 1,000 lifetimes that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu will see me. So Rukmini's thinking, all right, you don't take me now, I'll give up my body. And I'll perform lifetime after lifetime after lifetime of austerity. And someday you'll accept me. Oh, I didn't become Krishna conscious in a week. You know? Oh, what is this? 3 years from, you know, I've been a devotee for 3 years and I'm not experiencing ecstatic symptoms in prema. Must not work. If you want costume jewelry, fine. Spend your, $5 and get some rhinestone. You want to go to a diamond, you got to go to Tiffany's and pay the price. But you've got a diamond. So what are we going to do with our life? I want that pass at the homecoming game in high school. Or, I married my homecoming queen. And you got old and fat, she got old and fat, and you both dropped dead. Big deal. I'm sorry to be blunt, but But you get Krishna. Now that's an eternal benefit. Okay, so that's her mood. The Brahmana said, "This is the confidential message I have brought with me, O Lord of the Yadus. Please consider what must be done in these circumstances and do it at once." The Brahman's a good messenger too. When the Brahman arrived, this is the purport. When the Brahman arrived, he broke the seal of the confidential letter, written in the privacy of Rukmini's quarters, and meant only for Lord Krishna. I mean, everything. I used to love to read Shakespeare, and I'm telling you, everything's in the Bhagavatam. Romance, adventure, suspense, drama. It's got it all. It's read Bhagavatam. You won't miss a thing. Instead of, Bollywood cinema, you watching that on TV or whatever it is, Read Bhagavatam. Okay. Using the term Guya Sandesh, the trustworthy Brahmin personally selected by Rukmini here affirms that he's not violated any confidentiality in this message. Only Lord Krishna has heard it. Since the marriage of Rukmini was fast approaching, Sri Krishna would have to act immediately. The term Yadudeva indicates that Lord Krishna, as the Lord of the powerful Yadu dynasty, must make his decision and then mobilize his followers as necessary. So now we're in the next chapter. Krishna kidnaps Rukmini. Ooh, look at the time. If we don't finish, we'll finish tomorrow. Sukadeva Goswami said, hearing the confidential message of the princess of Vidarbhi, of Princess Vidarbhi, Lord Yadunandana took the Brahmana's hand and smilingly spoke to him as follows. The Supreme Lord said, just as Rukmini's mind is fixed on me, my mind is fixed on her. I cannot even sleep at night knowing that Rukmi, out of envy, has forbidden our marriage. So darshan means what? Anyone know what darshan means? To see. Yeah, very good, Balaram. So we know darshan means, oh, I come and I see Krishna, okay? But Prabhupada said darshan, what else does it mean? Yeyatam mam prapadyante. Krishna likes to see us. Krishna thinks, oh, my devotee got out of his warm bed or snapped off the computer and shut off the games he was playing on his phone and came to see me, you know? So Krishna's a person. We like it if someone makes an effort to come see us. So we get out of our warm bed and come and see Krishna. Krishna's not an ingrate. It's not that Krishna doesn't appreciate. So seeing the sweet, selfless, pure love of Srimati Rukmini, what we just read the other day, as a magnet attracts iron and not wood, Krishna is attracted by the bhakti of a devotee, you know? Not the mundane prayers, God give me this, oh great Amazon in the sky, give me whatever I want. But pure devotion, that attracts Krishna. So here we see. Krishna is a person. He has emotions. He's the source of all emotions. This is Krishna speaking to the Brahman. Rukmini has dedicated herself exclusively to me, and her beauty is flawless. I will bring her here after thrashing those worthless kings in battle, just as one brings a blazing flame. One brings a blazing flame out of firewood. Purport. When latent fire is aroused in the wood, the fire bursts forth, consuming the wood in the act of manifestation. Similarly, Lord Krishna boldly predicted that Rukmini would come forth to take his hand, and in that process the wicked kings would be burned by the fire of Krishna's determination. Nice analogy, you know? Just that the fire comes out of the wood and consumes the wood. So Krishna would get Rukmini, and he would also devastate all these sinful kings. You like analogy, simile, you find it in Bhagavatam. Shukadeva Goswami, now we're back to the verses. Shukadeva Goswami said, Lord Madhusudana also understood the exact lunar time for Rukmini's wedding. Thus he told his driver, Daruka, get my chariot immediately ready. Daruka brought the Lord's chariot, yoked the horses, and then he stood before Lord Krishna with joined hands. And this is the purport. Vishnu Chakravarti Thakur quotes the following text from the Padma Purana describing Krishna's horses. Krishna's got 4 horses. Here's what they look like. Shaiba was green like a parrot's wings. Sugriva was yellow gold. Meghapushpa was the color of a cloud. And Bala Haksha was whitish. So green like a parrot's wings, yellow gold, color of a cloud, and whitish. Just imagine the scene. And here's something else far out. Krishna mounted his chariot and had the Brahman do likewise. Then the Lord's swift horses took them from Dwarka to Vidarbha in a single night. 1,000 miles, one night they reached it. King Bhishmaka, the master of Kundina, having succumbed to the sway of the affection of his son, affection for his son, was about to give his daughter to Shishupal. The king saw to all the required preparations. Srila Sridhar Swami points out in this connection that King Bhishmaka had no particular liking for Shishupal. That's, the arrangement was a marriage. But rather acted out of attachment for his son Rukmi. Just see where material attachment will always get you in trouble. So he knew what he wanted, but he's attached to his son and he's getting pressure, so all right, he makes this arrangement to marry Shishupal. I'm thinking I'm going to skip ahead a little bit. Okay. After being bathed, the bride, who had beautiful teeth, was adorned with an auspicious wedding necklace. She then dressed in a brand new upper and lower garment and decorated with the most excellent jeweled ornaments. The best of the Brahmins chanted mantras from the Rigs, Sama, and Yajurvedas for the bride's protection, and the priests, learned in the Atharva Veda, offered oblations to pacify the controlling planets. Outstanding in his knowledge of the regular principles, the king rewarded the Brahmins with gold, silver, clothing, cows, and sesame seeds mixed with raw sugar. I mean, this is a wedding. You know, now what do you get at, you know, well, I'm going to go into, you get a store-bought jalebi and it's considered a big deal, you know. Outstanding, that I read. To secure the bride for Shishupal, the kings who envied Krishna and Balaram came to the following decision amongst themselves. So these are Shishupal's buddies. And they're thinking, okay, you know, here's our friend, and he's just about to marry Rukmini. And if anything happens, you know, we're big, powerful, and strong. We'll make sure nothing happens. Here was their big vow, big talk. If Krishna comes here with Balaram and the other Yadus to steal the bride, we shall band together and fight him. Thus those envious kings went to the wedding with their entire armies and a full complement of military conveyances. Just imagine the scene. When Lord Balaram heard about these preparations of the inimical kings and how Lord Krishna had set off alone to steal the bride, he feared that a fight might ensue. What do you think? Is a fight about to ensue? Immersed in affection for his brother, he hurried to the capital with a mighty army consisting of infantry and soldiers riding on elephants, horses, and chariots. Next verse. The lovely daughter of Bhishmaka anxiously awaited the arrival of Krishna. But when she did not see the Brahman return, she thought as follows. Rukmini thought, alas, my wedding is to take place when the night ends. How unlucky I am. Lotus-eyed Krishna does not come. I don't know why. And even the Brahman messenger has not returned. Purport. Anyway, next verse. Perhaps the faultless, this is Rukmini speaking, perhaps the faultless Lord, even while preparing to come here, saw something contemptible in me, and therefore has not come to take my hand. Purport. Princess Rukmini boldly invited Krishna to kidnap her. When Rukmini did not see him come, she naturally feared that he had rejected her proposal, perhaps finding some unacceptable quality in her. As expressed here, the Lord is anavadya, faultless. And if he saw some fault in Rukmini, she would be unworthy bride for him. It is natural for the young princess to feel such anxiety. Furthermore, if Sri Krishna had actually made a decision, it would be natural for the Brahman to fear had decided not to come. It would be natural for the Brahman to fear Rukmini's reaction were he to bring her this bad news. And that would explain why he had not come. This is a little anticipation that, you know, Krishna doesn't appear before us immediately. Krishna may not make a... Krishna puts the devotees in anxiety for a number of reasons. One of the reasons is the materialists see how the devotees, how they see the devotees in difficulty. You see devotees facing death, devotees facing, you know, so many different things. And you think, you know, difficulty in their personal life, but they don't, like lines on a stone, they don't give up their devotion to Krishna. Chanakya Pandit says, a person's character is tested in adversity as gold is tested by rubbing on a stone. It's a jeweler's stone. It's a black stone, and you can rub, you know, those who are expert, they can rub the gold ring, and they can tell if it's 18 karat, 14 karat, 24 karat. They can tell just by the color and feel. So by that rubbing, by that friction, they can tell the quality of the thing. So when we're put in difficulty, our qualities come out. Yeah, we're definitely going to have to finish tomorrow. I believe they still have. Pavamana and Sampada used to have, and maybe they still have, a African gray parrot. Sukadev. Do they still have Sukadev? Suka? And he can do a lot of things. And he didn't fold his wings, but he used to say, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya, Brak, Om Namo Bhagavate. He could say a lot of stuff. He could say the whole Hare Krishna mantra. So he was here one Janmashtami. We had a cow, a little kids thing. So Sukadeva was, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Ram, right? You got the idea. And the kids were having a great time. So because he was out on the sidewalk and there were some neighbors walking by, one of the neighbors came by with a giant dog. And the dog, here's Sukadeva looking this way and chanting Hare Krishna, getting a piece of rascal or whatever it was for it, having a great time. And all of a sudden he saw this huge dog rushing at him. What did Sukadeva do? Did he fold his wings and say, Pahi, Pahi, Mahayogin, Deva, Deva, Chigapate? Did he chant prayers to Lord Nrsingadev? Or what did he do? He forgot all about Krishna. So Prabhupada said we should not chant Hare Krishna like a parrot, that when they're under stress we forget, So here's Rukmini, she's, completely in anxiety. Where is Krishna? Am I going to have to marry this fool? And Krishna likes to put his devotees in that situation sometimes, because it shows that the devotee is steady in their determination, and it inspires other people that they have genuine shelter. I'm looking for shelter, fallible soldiers, but just see how the devotees are peaceful. They've taken shelter. And we'll talk about that with Lord Nrsingadev. And also, it brings out the devotee's devotion. If it's a cheap thing, you get it cheaply, you give it up cheaply. But if you actually hanker for it, and you have some anxiety, when you get it, then you really value it. So those are some of the reasons. It brings out the bhav of the emotion. So here's Krishna playing this orchestra of the heart, bringing out these different emotions. So she offers many, many prayers. As she thought in this way, the young maiden, whose mind had been stolen by Krishna, closed her tear-filled eyes, remembering that there was still time. O king, as the bride thus awaited for the arrival of Govinda, she felt a twitch in her left thigh, arm, and eye. This was a sign that something desirable was about to happen. It's an omen, Just then, the purest of Brahmins, the Brahman, appeared, following Krishna's order, came to see the divine Princess Rukmini within the chamber of the palace. All of a sudden, the Brahman appears. And Prabhupada says in the purport, or the Gopi Prandan says in the purports. According to Srila Sridhar Swami, Sri Krishna had reached the gardens outside the city, and out of concern for Rukmini, he instructed the Brahman to tell her of his arrival. Can anyone think of a similar pastime? This is a big hint. In the Ramayana, what happened? When Sita's alone in the Ashok forest and Ravana's taunting her, and he says, in 1 month, if you don't surrender, you either surrender me or I'm going to cook you up. Talk about a bedside manner, And so what happened? Ram sent Hanuman that, no, you just hang on, I'm coming, hang on. So here we say sympathy. So Krishna cares about his devotee. He feels his devotee's anxiety. He's got his own way of doing things. Prabhupada, Bhavananda told me this. We'll just read for another 5 minutes and we'll stop. Bhavananda told me this, that the GBC, Bhavananda was a member of the GBC, and the GBC had made a decision he didn't agree with. That happens. Prabhupada said the Pandavas used to disagree, but once a decision was made, Prabhupada said you couldn't put a pin between them. So, but they argue and had different, it happens. So Bhavananda told Prabhupada, that I don't agree with, he was sitting in Prabhupada's room, just him and Srila Prabhupada. And Prabhupada said, that's all right, whatever's decided. And if there's some mistake, Krishna will fix it. And Prabhupada said it in such a way that it was the end of the conversation. Somebody said, that's it, take it. Take it or don't, that's it. So Bhavananda could understand that's the end of that conversation, and he offered his obeisances. But as he offered his obeisances, he was, Prabhupada said, if there's some mistake, Krishna will fix it. So he was bowing down thinking, yeah, and how long will that take? You know how the mind in it. And just as he was coming up for upper obeisances, Prabhupada slammed his hand on the desk and said, but not in your time, in his time. So Krishna works in his own time. He knows what's best. Like, the devotees from Russia, when Russia first opened up, they had no association, practically speaking. And there were devotees all over the place, little pockets. They didn't even know about each other, So when Gorbachev opened up, and it's just a wonderful scene, and maybe we'll end here. When they opened up, the first time that the devotees from Russia could come to Mayapur, and they'd never been outside Russia. Many of them had never associated with, they didn't even know each other. There were these small pockets, covertly, because they were being persecuted like anything. The devotees had an old air raid siren, the kind you crank it was from World War II. They crank it like that. And they used to crank it when Prabhupada's car was coming down the road, so they would crank the air raid siren so the devotees would all know to assemble to greet Srila Prabhupada. So when the bus was coming with the Russian devotees coming for the first time outside of Russia, coming to Mayapur, we wanted to greet them nicely, And I think it was 3 or 4 buses. There was 100, 200 of them, devotees from Russia. So they started cranking the air raid siren so everyone knew to assemble on the road. Now, I was raised during the Cold War, and we used to have these air raid. You ever do a drop drill? Ed remembers. I don't know if you did it when you were kids, but you duck under the desk. And I remember my brother telling me, and they said, when you see the flash, jump under your desk. My brother said, hey, if you can see the flash, you're dust, So, it talk about fallible soldiers. But anyway, I don't want to go off the field. It was mostly to make the kids feel safe. I mean, there's nothing they could do about you, you're dust. But anyway, so my conditioning was hearing the air raid siren go off, and you jump under the desk because the Russians are coming. The Russians are coming. See how a thing therapeutically treated becomes the cure of the self-same disease. Air raid siren, Russians are coming, paranoia. You add devotional service. When the siren went off, the Russians we all ran out to greet them, and we all embraced, the big Russian bear and the American, whatever we are, the eagle, in loving embrace by the purity of devotional service. So how in the world did we get off on that? Anticipation. So here we'll see what happens. We'll leave it at this cliffhanger. Krishna's arrived, and the Brahmins, there it is. We'll leave it there. Okay? We'll pick it up tomorrow. Hare Krishna. Because it's not over yet, my friend.